think we have everybody, our early attendees in right now. So we could wait a couple more minutes, but I kind of want to get rolling so that we can get to questions. I
I
think
love that.
that's what I would like to do. So we are recording today's session, and this recording will be made available to everybody tomorrow. So if you miss anything or if you have to hop out early, you'll get the full replay tomorrow or the next day. So, welcome. We are about to begin this session of Selling in Brooklyn. Feel free to ask questions. The chat is enabled, and we'd love for you to put questions into the chat. We'll answer them as we go if it's appropriate, or we'll save some of them for the end. Few housekeeping items before we get started. We will be sharing relevant links in that chat as well. Those will be emailed to you tomorrow as well. And you can contact either of us or both of us afterwards if there are issues that you want to discuss not in a semi-public forum like this. So you've got questions, we've got answers. We'll either answer them here or we can investigate them with you offline. So we also are always asking people to submit to our women-owned business series. We have a blog series where we highlight businesses that are owned by women and gender minorities, and we love to feature them. If you have your own business, if you want to recommend somebody else's business, please let us know. And especially if they're located here in Brooklyn, we are very Brooklyn-based at Realty Collective. Michael Moshan is global, but we try to keep it pretty focused here at Realty Collective. So
And
just some
I
quick
tell people that
introductions.
I tell people that I'm connected to Brooklyn all the time, even though, half of that is true. So it's okay. I want to be Brooklyn, even though it's not technically true right now where I live. But okay, whatever.
Well, it's okay. I feel like you're Brooklyn. You're here in Brooklyn with us in spirit.
I am always.
So I'm Tina Fallon. I am a real estate salesperson here at Realty Collective, where I've worked for 20 of their 21 years of existence. Realty Collective is a boutique real estate firm. We're a very small company, woman owned and Brooklyn based. And we were established to kind of fight a lot of the stereotypes that you encounter about real estate agents. We are here to be your therapist, your coach, your sounding board, and generally help you through the emotional roller coaster that is selling real estate in New York City. So, one of the best things that we can do for you in that capacity is to introduce you early in your process to a really great real estate attorney. Playing that role this evening will be Michael Moshan. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Tina. I feel like we do these online seminars. I feel like I do them a lot. And a lot of it focuses on the buyers and the buyer's experience as first time newbie kind of tackling those issues. And this one is really one of my favorite classes because it is assuming that you have been through the buying process before in some way, you have some savvy. And so the issues get a little bit more. I think we can drill down a little bit more. We're not explaining, what a mortgage contingency is insofar as we are. Getting into like some more serious issues, which I really enjoy. Tina, it's always great to be, on the same team as you always. So I look forward to this. It's always a lot of fun. And if there are, if you need a refresher on buying and there's something you forget, like this is where it gets fleshed out too, because as a seller, you need to kind of anticipate what the buyers are doing. And so it's not just necessarily like, oh, this is what I need to do, or this is, you need to be thinking about what your buyers are doing too. Which I think is a little different than like if you're a buyer, you're not really thinking about what the seller is doing. You're really just thinking, you're like all consumed about yourself. And so I think that's a cool nuance for this. A very quick background on me. I have my own real estate practice. I'm a solo practitioner. I don't have a paralegal or an associate. I don't want that. There is a very deep connection that I feel with my clients. I have a lot of first-time home buying clients, but I also have some very savvy real estate selling clients. I've been doing this on and off for 25 years. I do have an office in on Madison in Manhattan, but don't hold that against me. I'm deeply connected to Brooklyn. I own an apartment in Williamsburg still. I've bought and sold in Brooklyn several times. My Brooklyn roots run deep, and I will continue to prove that to you, Tina. Don't judge me for my Manhattan, address. But anyway, that's some background on me, and I look forward to fleshing all this out together.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I do really love working with Michael. One of the things that I always think about in my job, people talk to me about sales, and I say, sales really isn't what we do. We do a lot of marketing, but what we do is a lot of problem solving. And it's really great to do this work when you have a real estate attorney who is also engaged in the project of problem solving. And Michael really is. And we have solved some really monumental problems for our sellers in the past. And it's always going to be something, this process, even when it seems like it's going to be easy, is never easy for anybody. So if you're anticipating some issues with your sale, believe me, that's a kind of a universal quality. And yet every single sale is different. Every problem is its own. And it's really great to work with people who meet those problems head on and are excited to engage with them and get a real sense of satisfaction out of solving those for our clients. So Michael really is that person. Some people are not. Some people are, just want to be jerks and make a fight about things, but Michael's really a problem solver. So
Thank you.
I love
Thank you,
doing
Tina.
this session with you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just hop into
Let's
it.
do it. Let's do it.
We're in March of 2026. Really, what time in the world? Why sell now? So this is a question that we always ask our sellers. So the market is what the market is, and we'll talk about that a bit. But you as a seller likely don't have a lot of control over what market you're selling in. If you're watching this now, you're thinking about selling sometime this year, most likely, and you're selling into whatever the market conditions might be at the time that you sell. So reasons people sell, obviously a big life change. If you're moving up to a larger place, you're downsizing into something else. Sometimes we do a lot of work with estate sales, inherited property, but you may also just feel like now is the time you want to cash out. Maybe you're leaving New York. We love for you to stay, but some people do choose to leave. So, we understand that this might be the right time for you, might be the wrong time. And that's another conversation that we like to have as early in your process as possible. Don't wait until you've decided it's the right time to start investigating who you want to work with as an agent or who you want to work with as an attorney, because we want to get in as early as we possibly can so that we can identify any issues that might apply. And at Realty Collective, one of the things that we often do is find ourselves talking people out of selling. Selling, if it's not the right thing for you to do right now, there are alternatives to selling. And if you feel like there's a financial reason why you need to sell, or there are personal reasons why you need to sell, sometimes there are alternatives to that. So let's start that conversation as soon as we can. And then I think next slide, Danny. That's Danny who's running our thing. Okay, great. Right, moving out of New York City. So those are other reasons. Or if you have a property that you know is in a high demand category right now, and there are a number of those. If you have a renovated home, if you've got a property with if you have a property with parking, for example, you've got beautiful outdoor space and you want to showcase it in the spring, those are some reasons you might want to sell now. Um, and then things to consider when we're talking about selling is that the market has been in a really constant state of flux for the last few years. And it seems like it's been going back and forth between like seller's market, buyer's market, seller's market. But there does continue to be low inventory, particularly in Brooklyn. And so even as interest rates have gone up, we're still seeing pretty high demand for a well-priced property anywhere in the city. So I am actually in the middle of, I was saying, I'm in the middle of selling in Brooklyn right now. I'm at a property that we have on the market, and the seller's agent and the architect are actually going through the house right now, taking measurements and assessing. So if you hear any background noise, that's what that is. Um, so then slide number 4, talking about what we're considering when we're thinking about selling. Um, Property, yes, exactly. The low inventory and then interest rates. So we have just recently seen interest rates take a little bit of a dip. So interest rates are at the lowest they've been in 3 years. And we saw a little flurry of active buyer activity around that moment. I don't know if you're seeing that too, Michael, where there's like
Yeah,
a sudden uptick in buyer activity.
yeah, I think like it's happened in the next last couple of weeks even. Yes, things are like kind of happening, and I think it is not that atypical when we hit springtime and there is a charge. And sometimes it's fake. Sometimes we all like or think it's momentum and then it pulls back. But right now there is momentum, and there are more deals that seem to be on flying around these days. So we'll see if it's for real.
Yeah, I think we live in a world of uncertainty right now, and that just is the reality of the market that we're in. And that doesn't mean that deals aren't happening. Deals are happening, but there is a lot of hand-holding on both the sell side and the buy side for all of the deals that we're doing right now. I think, and working with a team that appreciates that and is going to help you all through it to the finish line is really what's key.
So I think
So,
that I
yeah.
think that like just piggybacking off of that and like looking at this slide a little, getting to the moment where you feel as an owner that it's time to sell is a big deal, and there's a ton of considerations that you're thinking about. And this slide captures some of them, and I know that you know, before you ever talk to a lawyer, right? You really are like talking to your inner circle, and then you're talking to Tina, and you are starting to like game plan why am I selling? And I thought this always I like this slide because it gives you like a some of these very complicated things that you need to be thinking about if you're getting to that point. Like your mortgage. Is a great example. Maybe you have a fabulous interest rate, and it's been holding you down. And if you buy something that interest rate's a little higher, I don't know, that's a big deal. Maybe it's an investment property. I'm just looking at like the slide, Tina, you're looking at like a 1031. Do you have an investment property? It's not, and it's time to sell. And what are you going to do with the profit of that investment property? A 1031 is like a beautiful move that you and ChatGPT and Tina need to like get down and dirty and understand what a 1031 is, understanding your capital gains if you don't have a 1031, and then understanding what happens if you sell? What are the consequences of selling financially? How much money am I coming out of it? Is like I have these fees that I have to pay if I sell. I have transfer taxes to the city and state of New York. I have a flip tax. I mean, I'm just looking at the slide, and these are things that you just have to be thinking about. You have to do the math before you even talk to the lawyer. And I'll hand this back off to you, Tina, but I would say, like, if I'm having a first conversation with a client who's asking me to represent them on a sale, and I say, okay, that's cool. Like, do you understand your closing costs? And they say, not really. That is, that doesn't make any sense to me. You guys need to be, way out in front of that. And also, if you're talking to Tina, there's no doubt Tina is walking you through that stuff early on. And some agents, less so. So, look
Yeah.
at this list and kind of like think about it.
I think that's really a big piece of it too. A lot of agents really just want to get they just want to transact, right? Like they just want to do the deal. And I love to do the deal as well, but there are so many factors to take into consideration when you're choosing to sell. And it may not be the right choice for you, and there are other options in most cases. If you are like, well, we have to take money out to pay for my parents' elder care costs. Maybe there's a home equity line of credit that you can do. Or if it's something where, we're moving abroad and we really need to sell our house, well, maybe you can rent your house for a period of time. So we're not saying that we can't make those decisions for you, but we can also really talk you through what are the various scenarios that you're facing, and then try to find a solution that matches that. Because what we always say is that we're trying to get you from point A to point B. Point A is where you are now owning this home, and point B is where you're going next. And along the way, there will be a sale of some sort potentially, or maybe there's just a rental of your home. But our job is to get you from point A to point B. And if we understand really where you're going, then we can kind of scaffold a sale process around that really fits your needs.
Hey,
And I know we're
Tina,
going through this a
Tina,
lot in the beginning, but I think it's really important.
Tina, how many out of 10 clients who come to you, like who are thinking about selling, end up selling versus like bailing? Like what's in your just roughly, what do you
You
think?
know, honestly, in the past year, or call it in the past 2 years, it's probably 50-50.
Oh my
We've had a
goodness.
lot of the market has been really challenging for people if they don't get offers that are high enough for them to actually be able to make that transition to point B. We'll pull the property from the market. Sometimes people just get cold feet and decides that they don't want to sell. They get advice from a financial planner who says, not this year, tax-wise, you should wait another year. We're in it for the long haul with our clients. And so if now is not the right time, the last thing I want to do is be selling your home for you. So yeah, I would say it's probably 50-50. And some
Fascinating.
people, just we say don't sell and they hang on to their place for another 10 years. So, and to me, that's a win. So we're not here to talk you into selling. We're here to talk you through selling as much as anything else. So I think moving ahead is, do you have a property that people are looking like? Do you have what people are looking for? If you've decided we've gone through all of these scenarios and you're like, you know what, actually now's the time. Do you have what the market is looking for? And one of the things that we're
Danny, can
finding,
you hit the slide, Danny? Thank you.
yeah. Okay, great. Is these really good bullet points, desirable amenities, a location that people are looking for. We do still have people working from home, at least part-time. So they're looking for a space where they can do that in privacy. Um, Timing considerations we're going to get into in just a second. Outdoor space everybody wants. Do you get people looking for school performance? If you have a multifamily home right now, we definitely have buyers who are condo buyers or would have been single family buyers who are looking to supplement their monthly income with that rental income so that they can offset those higher mortgage rates. So there was a time a couple of years ago where people only wanted single family homes. Wealthy people only wanted single family homes. We're starting to see more of an uptick in the multifamily home space. Parking, yes. Ding, ding, ding. If you've got parking, great. We'll sell your house in a day. So, but the other thing I think that people are looking for right now, and Michael, you can speak to this, I think, as well, is that we have a lot of first-time buyers in the marketplace who have a lot of money and are buying expensive homes as their kind of first purchases. So we have people who are bypassing the whole starter home and going into like multi-million dollar home purchases as their first ever home purchases. And that is a very specific kind of buyer. And a lot of those buyers are looking for something that is trouble-free. Doesn't necessarily mean like that it has to be in perfect condition, but they're really looking for things that don't have red flags. And Michael, what might some of those red flags?
Well, I think buyers' red flags, when you take out the cost factor, you know, difficult commutes, difficult, more neighborhoods that aren't perfect for them. I think there may be at certain prices, if you're borrowing funds from a lender, those costs might be greater. There might be. I just had a deal recently where the mansion tax killed the deal. So, and then that was because that price was near, 2 million. No, near, yeah, 2 million. And so the price was going up based upon the mansion tax, and the whole deal crumbled. So, I think that's what comes to mind. You?
Yeah, some of the things that are coming up and have come up a lot in recent sales are unexpected items, and we'll get into this a little bit later too. Unexpected items like open permits that the sellers didn't know about, or an incoming assessment in a co-op. The day you put it on the market, they put scaffold up to do local law 11 work on your building. There's those kinds of things that will be cause a little hesitation for a buyer, and that little hesitation can mean the difference between getting a deal done and not getting it done. So we really want to know what's coming. You can absolutely sell your co-op with scaffold on your building. We just need to know that when we put that into the marketing and the pricing and the sale of that. And
It's
also,
actually it's a great point. It's a great point. The due diligence part of a buyer's process is something that you as sellers need to really appreciate, right? And I think that's where you were going before. And I think you're right. Um, you need to know, and you right now, so many co-ops and condos are dealing with local law 11, which is like facade renovations. If you're building, you need to know where your building is at in its journey with its facade. And if there are assessments, and very likely if you're in a co-op or in a condo right now, you're dealing with assessments, you need to know how they fit. And I'll just give you a really quick story. In a Williamsburg condo, 1.4 million, the seller didn't really disclose that the assessment was upcoming. And we found that out in due diligence. And that ultimately was like, going to be 15 more thousand dollars that the buyer was going to have to pay and didn't know about it. So, how do you introduce a $15,000 question mark into a deal? I don't know. Like we had to figure that out. And that deal, in the end, the seller gave a $15,000 credit to my buyer. But like, who wants to deal with that? You need to get out in front of that, as best you can, give your buyer all the information so that when you accept their offer and you come to a meeting of the minds, all this stuff is considered.
yeah, Marnie just mentioned something in the chat about required disclosures, including loud music venue down the block. So Michael can do a little bit more about this, and I think we do come to that a little bit later, but I'm happy to jump into it now. I'm not married to the slides, but this is a really good question. I think the key that you want is that you want a deal that's going to stick, right? And whether you are legally required to disclose something versus whether not disclosing something is going to come up in the due diligence and kill your deal before you get into contract. Those, I think, are what we really want to establish with your buyers and the whole team that represents that buyer is real trust. And that doesn't mean that you need to disclose things that you don't need to disclose. But what we find is that if there are some like unpleasant surprises that are coming down the pike, we really want to get ahead of those. So, Michael, do you have to require if there's a loud music venue down the block?
I think that's a really good one. Look, I think the writers to the contract would very likely flesh this out. Like there would very likely be in the buyer's rider a representation that you as seller don't have any problems. It would be very broad, that language. No noise complaints. How about that? That's in my rider. Noise complaints. Now, Is that really mean like a loud neighbor? But this, a loud music down, I mean, if you've been complaining in writing about the loud music, like, man, I don't know about you, Tina, but I would be very cautious to be quiet about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you don't, we live in a litigious country. You don't want to do something that someone can kind of get very upset and come back at you with even a frivolous lawsuit, right? I'm not saying somebody would do something like that, but I have a property that is coming to market that is very close to the F train. And before I have people even come see the house, I make sure they understand. It's the elevated portion of the F train in Carroll Gardens. If you have somebody who is very sensitive to noise, that house is probably not going to work for them. I don't want to waste their time making them come see it. I don't want to waste my seller's time making the house available. So um, for everybody for whom a loud music venue down the street might be disqualifying, there's somebody else who honestly doesn't care. And if it's somebody who works nights, I've sold very dark apartments to two doctors who both worked overnight shifts, and they just didn't want to be in an apartment that was blasted with sunlight. There is a buyer. There's a key for every hole. There is a buyer for every property, and I will probably err on the side of disclosing something like that, just because I don't want to. We get into a multiple offer situation. There's three really good over asking price offers. You accept the best one. And by the time we're done with the due diligence, that person's like, you know what? I was here at midnight last night and it was really loud, and now I don't want to buy this apartment. 2 weeks have passed. Your other two buyers have already moved on to another property. And that's what you don't want to have happen. That period of time between accepted offer and signed contract is a time when you want to move as quickly as you can with as little friction as possible. So we want to front load the friction,
Yeah,
make
and
sure we're getting the right
I
buyer.
would jump on that too, Tina. And I'm just interested in your like how you handle this stuff from the broker side. But like what you don't want, I mean, that question from Marnie is good because it suggests like what am I gonna tell my these guys, these buyers? What am I gonna tell them? But what you do not want to do is let anything that you don't tell them come up that is big and important. The buyer's lawyers take due diligence very seriously. Um, we are digging around and that could take weeks of just digging and researching the your co-op or your condo. We are looking around, we're looking in your board minutes, we're snooping around, for memos from the board to the owners. We send a questionnaire with 50 questions, like asking the property manager or the board president to answer those questions in writing. We're like looking at the offering plan. We're digging around. We are going to find it. Most likely, we're going to find what you're worried about. And if that thing comes up, well, I'm a hero when I find this out in due diligence. And what everyone then looks at is the broker, the seller's agent. What are you doing? You didn't tell us about the assessment? That's insane. And
Yeah.
then right, the hammer falls on you, the seller, and you end up paying.
Yeah. And sometimes you do end up literally paying. So if there was something where we knew in the beginning that there was an assessment coming, we disclosed that, and that was something that we discussed from day one, nobody can come back to us and say, wait a minute, what about this assessment? And you're like, you mean the assessment that we've been talking about from the very beginning?
Yep.
So, and I think that is it is we're quite transparent at Realty Collective. And obviously, we're going to protect your privacy whenever there is something that does not need to be disclosed and is not going to come up in the due diligence. There's no requirement for you to share that information. However, if it's something that we know, the boiler is on its last legs, the roof was 25 years old, those kinds of things, that we really do we want to get ahead of those because we will find your buyers. Like that is our job. Our job is to help you overcome all of those issues. If there is an open violation, I can file forms for you. Those things that we can really clear. We just need to know about them in advance. And nobody wants an unpleasant surprise. And yet people, if they fall in love with your home and it's the right place for them, they're willing to overlook so much if they know about it in advance.
Yep. Yep. Leaks, if you've had some leaks in the last couple of months, last couple of years, if we're going to ask about that. The buyers will ask. So you can't hide that stuff. Uh, I think,
Also, everyone has had leaks,
yep,
right?
yep,
Like that's been not a disqualifying thing anymore. What have you to address those leaks is the big question.
right. Yep. Get out in front of it.
Because I'm at my client's property, I am using my Wi-Fi hotspot, so it's indicating to me that my connection is unstable. So maybe let's jump a little bit and talk about what happens next. So you've decided to sell, and it's our job now to start soliciting buyers. And can you hear me?
We can hear
Okay,
you.
great.
You're kind of
So,
frozen, but we can hear you.
okay, sorry. I'll try not to my so, what's next? So next slide is, I think we're talking about attract buyers. We're going to start to move more quickly now.
Okay.
Um, so decided, so you've decided to sell. Oh, yes. The next thing is avoiding your more. So you're going, what your timeline, what your bottom line is for sale. So once we price your home to reach that number, and what happens if we don't get offers at that overpriced number. Those are all conversations that we need to have. If you're purchasing with the proceeds from the sale, there's a lot of timing considerations that we need to look at, and Michael can talk about those as well. So if you're selling, order to buy in a very specific category. So Michael, what's the timeline on something like that?
Oh, okay. So let me just catch up here. You were kind of coming in and out, Tina. Um, okay. So I think what you're asking is if you are selling and then you're using those proceeds to purchase, how does that work? Okay. So there are a couple of different ways that can go. Um, Really, the best way to do it, right, is you sell and then you take the proceeds from your sale and you use those for your purchase. The interesting conundrum for a lot of sellers is where do they move and how do they do that? And we do that with post-possession agreements. So you can sell your home. Oh, we lost Tina. Oh no. Okay, we'll try to get
Oh
her
no,
back.
I'm here.
Are you?
I just turned my video off so that you won't
Oh,
lose me
okay.
altogether.
Okay. So the money move with selling and buying is really that you close on your sale and then you stay in possession um, of for a week or 2 weeks. You work that out with your buyer. It's not rocket science, it's done all the time. You stay in possession of your place, you have the funds, you then close on your purchase, you own, you then um, and then you move and then you vacate. So uh, the challenge of selling and buying very often is with the contingencies because you need these dominoes to fall. Imagine trying to sell a co-op and use those proceeds to buy a co-op. You have board approval on both transactions. They both need to work, and your contracts will contemplate what happens if you don't. But you can imagine that these dominoes are lining up, and if a board rejects you or rejects your buyer, if a board rejects your buyer, you're in contract for your purchase and your buyer just was rejected. It can get very complicated. So, for my clients, we are always thinking of worst case scenarios. What happens if your buyer is rejected? What happens if you're rejected? You got to play through all those contingencies. Of course, I'm looking at the slide and it's talking about the costs. I mean, you obviously need to know what your bottom line is from your sale. You need to know what your net is. At the end of when you pay all your fees and you pay off your mortgage, how much money do you have? Okay, then that goes into your purchase, plus maybe you're getting a loan. I mean, I love a good sell and to buy, but I love it because it's complicated and we all need to, think about the breadth of the risk, and we need to appreciate it. So I hope that answered that slide, Tina.
That really did, and I
Okay.
appreciate it. So, moving to the next slide, we are talking about what happens now that you've decided to sell. So, at this point, it's time to assemble your team. So, you've got a real estate agent and a real estate attorney. These are the two most important ones. You can actually sell without a real estate broker. You cannot sell in New York without a real estate attorney. So make sure you have somebody who is a very specifically a New York City real estate attorney. Michael will get into that in a little bit. But as far as your real estate agent is concerned, we will share with you a list of questions that we think to ask. Definitely reach out to people in your sphere. If you're in a building where there is a regular broker who sells a lot in the building, make sure you talk to that person. If there's somebody whose signs you see around your neighborhood all the time, that's always worth a conversation. In our case, the way we work at Realty Collective, we're a very small company and we have very, very hands-on work with our clients. So what kind of a relationship you want to have with your team, I think is really key. What kind of communication you want to have with them, and then what kinds of services they're going to be performing. Those are all questions that you should ask. They also really need to understand the market. They need to understand what's happening right now, and they need to understand your home, your neighborhood, the very specific home that you are selling, the building, the property that you are selling. So, and then in terms of what you're looking for in a real estate attorney, Michael, can you go over a little bit of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are like three buckets of lawyers out there, and you don't want two of them. Okay. Right? There are a lot of real estate lawyers who who do other things, right? This is like a side hustle for them. They are litigators, they do other kinds of law. They have an infrastructure where they have a paralegal or an associate who does that other kind of law, and they feel that they can this is a nice way to like keep everybody busy, make a buck, and like those guys are cheaper than the rest typically, but they can get you to close, but those guys are tough and scattered and not locked in, and you deal with the paralegal more than the lawyer. So be aware and be careful. The other bucket is like the high volume firm. There's 10 or 15 out there. They do closings all the time. They can be rather expensive, but their brand is that they're going to get you through and you're going to be unscathed. You will be protected. You will be protected like crazy. Those guys do get you to close. There will be a partner, an associate, a paralegal who will work on your deal. You will be cared for by two of the three typically, but that experience, in my view, is cold. You just don't get much empathy. Much people are not necessarily psyched that you're texting them in the evening. That's a different experience. The third bucket is, my bucket where, it's more of an intimate relationship. It's more of an attorney who is available. So that the solo practitioners, small shops, typically are the better ones that I've seen out there. There are good lawyers out there. They work hard. They know this game. You want a lawyer who does residential real estate only. That's the key. You do not want these guys doing other business. And when they come to you and say, "Oh, we have this firm and we can do your trust and estates and we can do your family law and we can do your personal injury in case you fall down." I mean, just know that those firms are, they're sucker plays in many ways. So the firms that I like to work with, the lawyers who I enjoy working with, who understand that we're in this together. We're not looking to kill the deal. We're not looking to battle and fight over nonsense. We're not looking to flex our muscles to try to impress ourselves. Um, there's lawyers out there. Do your homework, get a good recommendation from a broker or a person you really trust who's been through it. And typically it's not it's think, ask some questions. The fees generally are similar. You know, I'm happy to help you find a lawyer if you need.
Thank you, Michael. All right. So, and as far as this, what Michael was just saying about like communication style, I think it's really important. These are really important relationships. Be very clear with the people about what you want and what your expectations are. So, if you say, I only want you showing the house, I don't want somebody from your team there. I want you to do an open house every single weekend it's on the market. Just be clear with people. You will find the person who's the right fit for you. And then as far as who sees your listing and how the great thing about the world that we live in is that technology has made it so that a small company like mine has the same reach as a huge company. And so if it really comes down to what you want your experience to be like, because most real estate agents we're going to have access to the same tools. We're going to have access to the same platforms. And so it really comes down to what you want your experience to be. All right, so let's jump forward so we can get to questions. Um, then you're deciding to sell. You're going to have to put some documents together. We talked about these a little bit at the beginning, just to make sure that you have your ducks in a row. We've done a quick scan to make sure there's no open violations or open permits on the property, but there are additional documents that you're going to need to get ready to sell. So, Michael, you want to go over
Yeah,
these?
sure. So, now we're in, right? I think we're in contract, right, Tina? Like in theoretically
Well,
while we're
no,
in
we're still,
contract
I
deal?
think it's important to get these together before we
Oh,
even
before.
before we
Great.
even list,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because if I'm doing my job right, you're going to get offers in the first week. We want to have our due diligence ready and we don't want to be scrambling. We don't want anybody waiting for us to get our act together because time kills deals.
Yep. So, you should know as a seller that you need if you're selling a co-op or a condo, you need to get the offering plan and all amendments. That should be ready to go in a digital file. You should be ready to send that to your agent who's going to share that with the buyer's lawyer. You would love to have a copy of your latest maintenance common charge statement. That should go to the lawyer once you have the deal sheet is out and you're ready to go. Your lawyer is going to want to see that. What about your stock and lease if you own a co-op? Where is that? Did you give it to a bank because you got a loan? Okay. Well, then we're going to need to get that for the closing. But if you don't have a loan, where is that stock and lease? Is it in a drawer somewhere and you need to get it, you have to find it. If you don't have it, it becomes a huge pain in the ass and might cost you some money. So you need to find that stock and lease. What about if you're selling a house? Um, you might want to look online and see if you have any violations, any problems. Do a search of your property. Get a copy of your real estate taxes, so you can share that with your broker. Get a copy of your title policy and your survey if you're selling a condo or a house, that's just going to make the buyers very happy and make their life easier when you're in contract. So get out in front of this stuff. Very often, when you bought, if you bought in the last 10 years, your lawyer hopefully sent you a closing statement, a beautiful PDF that has all these documents from your purchase. I know that I've done that. I send that to my clients and like, where is that? Find that. Send that to your lawyer. They're gonna feast on those documents. These are all just good stuff to have. Get out in front of it. And the last thing I'll say is the financials for your co-op or condo. Get the last 2 years of your audited financials. Find those. I bet they're emailed to you from your board. Your buyers are going to want that. And if you don't have this stuff, especially the due diligence stuff, as Tina said, it's just going to like slow things down. And you don't want that as a seller. You want everything happening. As soon as you get your buyer, you get a deal sheet, they do the due diligence, the contract goes out. You want everything flowing. And if we trip up because you don't have an offering plan and the buyer's lawyer says, look, I don't know what to tell you, I need an offering plan, then everybody starts getting antsy.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that it's if you have none of these things, just let us know. We'll track them down. It's not a disaster to not have them at the beginning of the process. It's only a disaster when we don't have them and you're closing in a week.
Yep.
So these are all things that we can work on with you. If you don't have a copy of them, we can hunt them down. We can dig them up for you. We're happy to do that work. We just need to know what we need to find for you.
Yep.
All right, so soliciting buyers. So now it comes back to me, my job. In way we approach this at Realty Collective is to say, I come from the theater world, and we feel like every home tells a story. And what story is your home telling? And can we help you tell that story? So if you're selling an estate, this is something we're in the middle of doing right now. It's an estate sale that is in pretty shabby condition, but it's got great light and it's going to be really well priced. Maybe there are some things that we can do. So that's an apartment that we actually just had repainted. We're putting new appliances in because it's actually a really beautiful apartment and it wasn't telling its story, right? Like the apartment wasn't showing as well as it could. These are things that we do in real life. We actually stage for our clients. We offer that staging in most cases free of charge to our clients. We know our clients don't have the money that they're going to have when they sell. So we do, and sometimes we'll do a light renovation of an apartment for our clients because it makes my job easier if I can tell the story of your home. And we don't do virtual staging. Virtual staging, I find, is a negative impact on the sale process. It can be really tempting to say this has been virtually renovated or virtually staged, but people are going to come to your home. They fall in love with the photos online. And if they get to your home and it doesn't look like the photos, it is only confusing to them. And so we feel like this is something that we want to be really clear from the beginning. If the story is it's an estate sale and it's in terrible condition and you just need to bring your contractor to see it, we're not going to try to pretend that that's something that's in pristine condition. And I'm not going to sell some version of a renovation to it. We're going to sell that as a fixer-upper, and we're going to do a really great job telling that story. But if it's in gorgeous condition, we want to make sure we have beautiful photos. We want to make sure we've done everything to show it off in its best possible light, because everybody is going to see their properties first online, and we want them to fall in love with your actual property, not some idealized version of your actual property. That said, we want to get it as close to that idealized version as we possibly can. So we do a lot of prep on our properties to sell. When we're really good at our jobs, we get offers right away, even in a tough market. If we've priced it right, if we've marketed it right, if we've staged it properly, we're going to generate a lot of interest and we're going to get offers right away. advice we give, sometimes those feels really sudden, right? Like you just put the house on the market and now you're getting offers. You got a full asking price offer. It can be tempting to believe that we have underpriced the home. In fact, those first offers that you get in are people who know the market and they understand the value that you're offering and they do not want to miss out. So take that first offer seriously. If that offer is a little bit low, always counter. Don't be so insulted by a low offer that you don't counter. Sometimes there's a buyer who just wants to see if they can get it for less. And then when you come back to them and tell them that's not true, they're going to come up, but don't miss an opportunity because the buyer offers something that's insultingly low. They're on their own trip, they're doing their own thing, and our job is to get them up as high as we possibly can. So ideally, we've got multiple offers in, and we're really able to consider something beyond the price. We're able to consider the terms of the deal. So, are they financing the home, and do they look like they're going to qualify for the financing? So we do a deeper dive into their offer. Do they earn enough money? Do they have a pre-approval from a reliable bank? And we will push on that. In a co-op, we will really push to make sure that this is somebody who can pass the co-op board. So sometimes you get an offer that seems really great, but when you get down into the nitty-gritty of the terms, that person is a little bit iffier than somebody else. That doesn't mean you have to always go with the cash buyer. Sometimes there is, at the end of the day, you're getting cash from the bank. If it's cash, it's cash in the form of a mortgage, cash in the form of cash. What we really want to look for is somebody who is going to close this deal. So I like this bullet point. Are they trouble? So sometimes people do show up in the space and you just know they're going to give you a hard time about everything. We can get through that, but if you have other options, maybe you want to go with somebody um, who's offering you a little bit of an easier time on your sale. And then when to allow financing contingencies. Most attorneys I know, if somebody is getting financing, they're probably going to allow a financing contingency. Michael, you can tell us a little bit more about this. But I believe that people should be able to buy homes with mortgages. I don't believe that only cash buyers should be allowed to buy homes in this market. So I take very seriously people who have a financing contingency as long as we feel quite confident that they're going to get that financing. What about you, Michael?
Oh man, I mean, it really depends on the market. Over the last 20 years, we've really seen, I think Tina, both of us, like there are moments moments of time where financing contingencies are, you're not going to get the deal. And um, it puts buyers who need financing and in a very difficult spot. I don't think we're at that market right now. I'm seeing more financing contingencies, but I recently had a deal that came in like last week where they were getting financing and they couldn't get a contingency. And I said you got to be you have to be sure. These are gutsy plays, but sometimes the market dictates. I think Tina, your philosophy is a good one. It's very scary to waive your financing contingency. Um, in co-ops and condos, lenders don't even just consider you, but they look at the building too. So it can get complicated. You'd love the protection of a financing contingency, but when the New York market is heating up and there are bidding wars, sellers generally, if it's all things being equal, they don't want to worry about a buyer's getting financing. That is something I think that is um, waived when the sellers have complete power. We're not there now, but I've certainly seen those markets in the past.
Yeah, I think these are again all things that are so specific to whichever buyers are there for your specific property. So lines of communication just need to be open all the time around these issues. Sometimes you can have a financing contingency, but you set an appraisal floor. So let's say something went over your asking price and you're worried that the house may not appraise for the purchase price. Sometimes you can keep the financing contingency, but set an appraisal floor so that you're not responsible as a seller for their willingness to overpay for your property. It's a great position to be in, and there's a lot of different ways for us to protect you in the event that you have multiple people who want your home, and while still like keeping those options open.
Tina, do you have I know that you have like a little bit of an aversion to waiving your financing contingency. Are you okay with the appraisal contingency? Like, is that a comfortable line for you as
Uh, I think in most cases, the appraisal contingency needs to work for the seller. I would mostly talk you out of an appraisal. There's a lot of bad appraisers out there.
yeah,
And so, particularly if something is selling for well over the asking price, I will mostly negotiate for an appraisal floor. So, which means that you, as the seller, are not responsible for the difference between, say, your asking price and the appraised value. And I would again only do that if the sellers showed that they were capable of covering that split, right? Like if you have somebody who is just very, very marginal on their finances, you wouldn't set them into that position. You wouldn't accept their offer if you thought, oh, in the case of a low appraisal, they're going to have to walk away.
right,
So, I
right.
think it's again like it's really fun for us to talk about, but it's all of this really comes down to what makes sense for your property. So, let's say we're almost done here. So we've accepted the offer. We've sent deal sheets out. The contract is going back and forth. The buyers are doing their due diligence, which is what we talked about a little bit earlier. There will be an inspection. Here's a place where we want to have disclosed everything ahead of time because if something comes up that's a big nasty surprise during the inspection, that can really blow up the whole deal. But if we know something is coming, we know that the boiler needs to be replaced, there are ways that we can accommodate that. We can put into the deal that you're going to give a credit at closing, for example, for the purchase of a new boiler at the time of at the when they need to replace it at some point in the future. You don't have to pay that money until closing. And it may make more sense for you to offer, say, a $10,000 credit rather than accept the second lower offer that is $25,000 lower. So we'll look into all of those things ahead of time. But again, if we know in advance, that's ideal. But sometimes things come up during inspection that we don't know about, and we try to be very, very open and honest about that with the attorneys and make sure we get whatever needs to be considered into the contract.
Yep.
Again, like it's not, again, not a time to try to hide something from anybody. It's a time to disclose, and make sure that everybody is protected legally. So then closing date timing, from the time we put your home on the market to signed contracts is usually between 2 weeks and a month. Sometimes it sits on the market for a while, but from accepted offer to signed contract, what would you say, Michael, right now?
Oh, 2 weeks, sometimes a week, sometimes 3 weeks, but I'd say average like 10 days. You're hoping for a week, but it's like 10 days to 14 days is like this contract period lately. Usually just bogs down with the due diligence. It's hard to rush that, even though the parties are all motivated. So you got to figure 10 days to 2 weeks is a decent time to get from deal sheet, offer acceptance to contract.
And then if you have a cash deal, you can close in as little as 30 days, although it's usually more than that. If you're selling in a co-op, you're really looking at 90 days to go through that process. Sometimes it can be a little bit faster, but even if somebody is a cash buyer, the co-op sale process does take time. So these are things that we want you to be thinking about. If you're moving out and then you have to carry the home for an additional 3 months after you've moved out, we want to make sure that you have the resources to be able to do that so that you're not, biting your nails at the very end. You're probably going to be biting your nails at the end anyway, um,
And I
but
just want to add, Tina, I just
yeah.
really, I know we're running out of time, but in New York, you've got this 30 days to play with. You've got 30 days of flexibility. For all of our sellers here who bought, it might be a distant memory, but in New York, we don't put a date and it is exact date. There's flexibility. So cash deal, like just think 30 to 60 days, and financing deals, think 60 to 90.
Yeah, and that's really important. And it gets very stressful at the end. I think the two most stressful weeks for a seller are the week between accepted offer or the 10 days between accepted offer and signed contract. That can be really nerve-wracking. And the last week before closing can be really nerve-wracking as well, especially if you're also moving out of your home during that period of time. And like that's when you really want to depend on your team. Go to your people. Like I can absorb an enormous amount of stress from you, and I'm here to talk it through. I'm also here to help with the move, to help with the packing. I have moved people's garbage out of their houses on the
Yep.
day of a closing. So
Yep.
we're really here to get you through even the hard and ugly parts of this process, because what we're looking for is we get to that closing table and we've satisfied all of the contingencies. We do a final walkthrough within 24 to 48 hours. The home is broom swept. You have filled every hole in the wall that's bigger than a
A dime,
dime,
a dime.
than a dime, and you are everything is meeting the contract terms, and we proceed to the closing table. So, closing the deal, Michael, what's that like?
Well, this slide before, like all the things that you might be doing before the closing, right? You have to, your lawyer will take lead on arranging for the payoff of your mortgage. Your lawyer will arrange to clear title and make sure that everything is cleaned. Any debts or fees will be paid at the closing. And Danny, you can do the next slide too, as we get to the final closing, right? Like the months of being in contract, a good lawyer will like tee all of this up so that at the table, everything is done in a couple of hours where all the fees and debts are paid, title is cleared if it's a condo, the stock and lease is brought to the table. Title insurance is paid for. It becomes like a big sit around the table, which these sellers, Tina, they've been there when they bought, so they probably know the game. In addition to like the apartment being vacant and broom clean, um, uh, and the condition of the apartment, everything needs to also be in working order, typically. So if something is not in working order, if that water dispenser in the refrigerator is wonky, um, you're gonna need to give a credit to your purchaser, or you need to arrange with a handyman or something to get that thing fixed before the closing. So let's assume that the condition of the apartment is okay, vacant and broom clean. You haven't left anything there. Then there's this at the final walkthrough, it's okay. And now at the closing, your mortgage is paid off. The If you had a real estate agent, you pay your real estate agent there, you pay your lawyer, you pay the transfer taxes, you pay the co-op fees. Maybe there's a flip tax. You can see how the fees are like lining up, right? At the table, you are going to pay all the expenses that go on with a real estate closing. And at the end of all of this, these payments, there's this balance to you, that usually it's a wire transfer or it's a certified check, that gets and in exchange for the the keys that you slide down. If you attend the closing, you slide the keys over, you get the check, and we're closed.
All right. Yay, we're closed. I know we glossed over a few things in order to be able to go more in depth at the beginning. But we're a little over time, but I'm still here if anybody has any questions they want to add in the chat. Um, and if not, we're really happy to talk to you tomorrow or the next day. Anytime you want to just engage with us, there's no cost to that. It doesn't imply that we are representing you. There's no agency relationship established just by picking up the phone. So please do reach out, email, talk. I love this work. It is a privilege to be with people as they go through these massive transitions in their lives. I come from a family of social workers, and I feel like what I do is really help people through transition. And and then also like I also really like to get lots and lots of money for my sellers. I get personal satisfaction out of that. So it's kind of twofold satisfaction for me. And I really love it. I love talking about it. I love coming to people's homes and talking about what we need to do to set it up for sale. So I will do all of that free of charge and then try to earn your business. Michael, I know you feel the same way about your clients.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this the other day. You know, this the love of the job, the love of the adventure of it, the meeting really interesting people, the clients who I meet, I feel like I connect with in a really special way. And it's no joke. It's not I think I'm really lucky to do this job and to be a part of a community that I'm very proud of. There are lawyers out there who don't think about any of this stuff, and but I do, and I don't take this for granted. And um, it's a I think Tina, you may feel this too, although there might be more longevity between you and your clients. I feel like with lawyers and their clients, it's like this intense 2 or 3 months, and we like really, I'm in it, like locked in with these guys, and then they close and then like they're gone. And I feel like maybe it's similar with you, Tina, but like maybe there's more of a long relationship, but it's freaky, like it is really it's fascinating, and I'm very grateful to be a part of this process. And as Tina said, call me, um, for anything, whether you want to hire me or not. It's okay if there's just questions. I don't charge anything for that, so feel free.
You know, Marnie just signed off, but I thought of how I would posit her property in terms of like the language that you can use around that. So it's something where you can say this, like you can refer to it as a lively neighborhood. There are, if there's like nightlife nearby, those are things that are going to be attractive to some buyers, even though it's going to turn some other buyers off. Somebody's looking for peace and quiet, they will probably be able to read between the lines of something like that.
Love it.
Yeah. But I missed her. She's gone. So thanks everybody for joining us. Really happy to answer any questions.
Calling to remind you that. Oh my God, sorry. Oh my God, sorry.
Well, you better go. Michael's got to
Yeah.
go. He's a busy, busy
I'm
man
eternity.
with clients to serve. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you, Tina.
Thanks. Thanks, Danny.
Thanks, Danny.
Thanks, guys. Bye.